Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway and welcome back to another Monday special. Now today's video is going to be a bit of a nerdy sort of video. I'm going to be talking about electronics and lighting and things, and it might get a little bit lengthy, so if you're here for trains, I do apologise. This sort of video doesn't come out too often from me, but that's what it's going to be today. You might find it interesting, some of you might not, so you know, whatever the case may be, do whatever. If you don't want to watch this, that's fine, but if you do, let's get started and I'll sort of introduce what I'm going to be talking about today. So the long and short of it is I've got just had a package of some new lighting equipment and I'm going to be putting it up today. But first of all, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the existing lighting that I've got in this room and what it does and what it doesn't do and that sort of thing. So first of all, you might not know this because I don't talk about this all that much, but basically all of the permanent lighting in this room is LEDs. The vast majority of it is LED strips or LED tape which goes along the ceiling there, and over the last sort of 8 months I put in some floodlights, 4 of those, 2 at the back of the room and a couple behind me. You can see the one that's over there on the wall there. And for the most part these lights were all sort of intended as a prototype. A couple of years ago when I started doing this, I didn't have a lot of money behind me, so I certainly didn't want to be spending thousands, yeah, it could have been thousands, on sort of professional grade LED tape. All I wanted to do really was buy some super cheap Chinese LED tape, stick it up there and see what it was like, and if it proved good then I would obviously save up and get some better ones, and if it didn't work then I hadn't spent too much money so I could scrap it. Now as it turned out, these LED tapes, or whatever you want to call them, have been up there for a couple of years and they've actually done a really good job. They've been absolutely fine, but as you can see now there's starting to be a few dead spots on those and the brightness has diminished a little bit, as is quite common with LEDs over time. So I decided it would it would be time to do something else, and I made a couple of mistakes initially as well in choosing the LEDs that I did, so I'm going to talk about some of those mistakes now. So the first mistake was with the floodlights. Now the floodlights were super cheap ones. I think I paid about 30 quid for all 4 of those, so you know, I sort of knew the pitfalls of that. I knew that cheap LEDs get failures and things pretty early on, but to be fair, these have done alright. They've been there for a couple, well, at least 6 months now I would say, and it's only really now that I'm starting to see some failures, and I think I know why the failures are. So I'm going to show you now the power supply and I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think these failures have started. Again, sorry if this gets lengthy, but hopefully it will be interesting for you. Okay, so here we are then at the power supply drawer, and the power supply for all of the lighting in here, well, the strips and the floodlights at least, is coming from this power supply here. Now recently I've done some modifications to this drawer because it wasn't all that safe before. Well, let me tell you about it. So the way this used to work, right, I've got 2 switches here on the outside of the cabinet. One is for the house lights and the other one is for the floodlights. Now all the house light switch does is, if I can show you this, here we are. So these are the wires here from the house lights, and bear with me, I know this is just a mess of wires so you're not going to see too well here, but all that does is it shorts the green cable and one of the black cables together on the power supply, and basically all that does is it turns the power supply on. If this power supply was inside a computer, for example, when you switch the power button, when you press the power button on that computer, that's all the motherboard does. It just shorts those 2 wires together, the power supply switches on and your computer boots up. But rather than having it done like that, when I flick this switch, that's what happens. The power supply turns on and off. Now, what used to happen for the floodlight switch is that I would have the floodlights in parallel with the lights on the roof. So what would happen is when I flicked that floodlight switch, all the power to the floodlights would go actually through the switch, through this little wire. Now these are 20 watt floodlights, which is, you know, way over 5 amps for the pair of them, and all of that current was going through this small wire which is only rated for I think 2 or 3 amps. Now in reality that wasn't too bad because it's good quality wire and the wire only got very slightly warm to the touch. It wasn't sort of, you know, burning the insulation off or anything like that, but it certainly wasn't too ideal, and I wasn't feeling too pleased about that, to be honest. But you know, I only use the floodlights for a couple of hours a week and I'm always here with them. Obviously if I was going to be leaving those on for, you know, prolonged periods, then I wouldn't want something boiling over like that, but as it was fine. But as I say, I was never too happy about it, so recently I did some modifications. So now what you've got is all the power to the lights goes through these Molex connectors. Before it was soldered directly, but I decided if I did it this way then if the power supply ever pops or anything like that, I can just literally unplug the lights and plug them into another power supply. Now it has been modified. As you can see, the yellow here is 12 volts, the two blacks there are the neutrals, and here you would normally have a red on a Molex connector, which would be a 5 volt rail, but instead what I've done is I've modified it and put another yellow on there so that we've got two 12 volt circuits going through there rather than a 5 volt and a 12 volt, and that's true with both of them. So we've got 4 wires coming out of the power supply, which means that the current for the whole system is shared quite nicely. And now, rather than this cable here from the floodlight switch going straight to the floodlights, what it actually does is it powers these two relays here. Let me grab these. This is on at the moment, so I want to be careful not to disturb it. 2 relays here. One of them switches the front 2 floodlights and the other one switches the back 2. The relays are actually 10 amp relays, which means that in theory I could have powered all of them through those. But the idea of the exercise was to reduce the current load in all of the wires. So I have made them 2 separate circuits now, which means that if we've got 2 at 20 watts, so that's 40 watt per circuit. At 12 volts, we're talking approximately 4 amps. You can do the maths if you like, but don't forget the cheap Chinese floodlights often overestimate their actual wattage, so you never know for sure. I think I did measure it one time and it's around 4 amps approximately, so that's a little bit better. The loading on those cables is much better, and now they're no longer warm to the touch, which is exactly what I want. But what that has meant over the last few days since I did this is that we aren't wasting as much power through the wires, so the voltage going to the lamps is a lot higher now. Now, because those are very, very cheap LED floodlights, that's meant that basically that extra voltage has overloaded them a little bit. Not that it should, because it is still 12 volts, but it has put them under that little extra stress. It has been lighting the LEDs a little bit more, and so I've started to see some failures, and as you can see, this one I'm showing you now has developed a bit of a flicker. It's always had a slight flicker, but now it's much worse than it was, and a few of the modules have failed inside there as well. So it's been a good upgrade on the PC power supply end, but obviously the cheap Chinese floodlights have definitely suffered. So that's the problem with those. I shouldn't have bought such cheap floodlights, and I also bought warm white as well, which wasn't ideal. The better quality floodlights offer neutral white at a colour temperature of about 4000 K, which is much more sort of what I want for natural light. So that's what these new floodlights are going to be, and let me talk now about the strips. Okay, so those were the issues with the lamps, and I've got some new lamps which I'm going to show you in just a second. The issues with the tape is a little bit more simple. Basically what I know now is that the waterproof type of LED tape is a lot more prone to failure for some reason. I don't know whether it's because, you know, the waterproof coating on the top puts pressure on the joints or whatever. I'm not too sure what causes it, but apparently that is a thing. And also, knowing what I know now, I would have never bought the waterproof type because it's really hard, especially if you're going to snip it up and use smaller sections of it, as I have on the backs of the beams. It's just really, really hard to solder connections to them. You've got to get all the horrible coating out of the way, and it all melts around the soldering iron, and it's a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. So you might as well save the money and not get the waterproof type. As it stands, it's actually cost me a little bit extra not to get the waterproof type, but that's absolutely that's absolutely fine by me. I don't want to be dealing with the waterproof stuff anymore. So anyway, I'm gonna stop talking now and start doing a little bit of action here. So I'm gonna get these unboxed. We'll see what I've got inside here. This is not all of the new lighting. I'm not going to spend all that money in one go. I'm going to do it over the next few months. So there's just a few strips of LED tape in here and 4 new floodlights, which I'm going to be putting in today. And if it proves that these products from Ultra LEDs, I think it's called, if I'm reading that right upside down, if these prove to be good products and there's a visible improvement, then over the next couple of months I will go ahead and buy some more and kit out the rest of the room. But this is another bit of a trial really, but hopefully there will be an improvement afterwards. Okay, so another thing I should mention as well, obviously I said that all of the lighting in this room is LED, but in a shot a few seconds ago I clearly showed that there are some fluorescent tubes installed up here, but the thing is I can't use those anymore. The first reason is because they're pretty low cry, and all that means really is they put out quite a rigid spectrum of light, so they have a spike of red, green and blue rather than a smooth spectrum, and that's not very natural. The sun obviously is a much broader spectrum than that, and so fluorescents really don't look too good on camera. The second reason is ever since I've started filming in 60 frames per second, which is from 2018 onwards, you've got weird flickering coming from those. You get sort of weird brown lines across the screen and things when you film with those on, so I've really had to switch those off. So for the past, 5 or 6 months or so, those have been turned off and I can't use those anymore. So again, that's another reason now why I'm having to completely rely on the LEDs, because I haven't got the extra light which those fluorescents would normally put out. So let's take a look at what I've got inside here then. So I've got just 2 LED strips, well, tape strips in here. Let me grab these. And I'm going to replace the 2 on the roof today, 2 of them that have got the worst dead spots. So let's open up these bags and take a look. I've got a 9-volt battery here, so I can just test whether they work, but obviously they're designed to run on 12 volts, so we won't find out just how bright they are really until I get them powered up on 12 volts. So yeah, as you can see, they're quite small compared with the ones that are up there already. I think they are self-adhesive, which is good. But okay, let's give them a little bit of a power up then with this battery. Let's see what they're like. So there you go. I don't know really if they're going to be any good for actually lighting the room. Actually, they don't look all that bright, but we'll try them. On 12 volts they may well be better. But yes, the colour temperature looks pretty good on those, and something I have noticed is that you've also got power outputs on the other end as well, so that you can power it at both ends, and that's because you get quite a bit of voltage drop sometimes. But no, I'll try that just being powered at one end, but if one end is massively brighter than the other, I might have to look at improving that somehow. But okay, just grab the other one out then, make sure that one works as well, but I'm sure it will. Okay, let's give this a little try on the battery. Oops, got them the wrong way round. So yeah, those seem to be working fine, which is no problem at all. So okay, I'll be putting those up later on. Let's try some of these floodlights, and there should be 4 of these. Now these are quite a bit larger than the ones I already had, which doesn't matter too much because space on the walls back there isn't too limited, so yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. But again, I'm going to try this with the 9-volt battery, which won't give them their full output in terms of brightness, but it should at least give us an idea that they are working. So there it is, there's the light. Pretty big thing actually, although the LED modules are pretty tiny inside there, but it's supposed to have quite a wide field of view, if you like, or field of output light, whatever. I've got some instructions here, but won't bother with instructions. It's pretty straightforward. Oh, nothing out of that one. That's strange. Might have to actually try it on 12 volts. Let's make sure these are proper 12 volt ones. Oh, that's odd. It does say that they're not 12 volts. It says that they're mains. Okay, so yeah, taking a look at the actual specs of these are actually mains voltage ones. But that's okay, that means I've got a bit more wiring to do now. I'm going to have to wire these up to the mains, which is actually okay really, because it's going to solve some of the issues about wires getting warm and things. That's not going to happen with mains voltage. So I'm going to test these on the mains. These are 12 volts as expected, so these can go straight in. I'm going to unpack these and I'll get back to you in just a sec once I've had time to try some of this out. Okay, so before I get started, just a little bit of an update on the LED tape that I've bought. I just decided to try it on a 12 volt mains power supply rather than just a 9 volt battery, just to see if the brightness was a lot better. And I can still see the stars, to be honest with you. It was that bright, so I am now much more confident that it's going to be what I want. So I'm going to snip off these cables because I'm going to be using those to wire up the new set. Apologies if the shots are flickering, because I have actually put the fluorescents on now just so that you can still see what I'm doing. So I'm going to tear down the old strips. There are some wire grips in there which I'll just pull out, and I'll probably put them back in just to help them stay up. The self-adhesive was never too effective with these. Sometimes they'd drop down, so I ended up sort of gluing them up. So it's going to be fun getting them back down, that's for sure, but it should be okay. I'm going to try not to ruin the paper too much, but yeah, it is going to ruin it somewhat. But here it comes down anyway, and of course a lot of this stuff is still working, so I will be able to use it in maybe diesels or coaches or something like that, so it's not completely wasted. Anyway, I'm going to stick the new strip up, get it wired in, and I'll be back shortly and show you what the first one looks like. Okay, so they're all done. I've wired them in. It was fairly simple because it was the same circuitry as before, of course. And I'm in the dark at the moment because I'm yet to try them. I'm about to just switch them on now. So I thought I would bring you along for the ride. So I'm just going to head over and flick the switch, and hopefully we should get two of the strips, well, two new strips lighting up. All right, here we go. Woomph. Oh, blimey, that is actually hurting my eyes to look at that. Well, that is dramatic. That is a real difference. So yes, those are a massive thumbs up. Wow, really pleased with that. Okay, so that's good. That means it's going to cost me more in the future because I'm going to buy some more of those for sure. Look at those. Absolutely incredible. Right, okay, now moving on to the floodlights then. Let's get started on those. Okay, well I've got to do this 4 times, but I'll just show you guys this once. I'm going to be taking down the old floodlights. I'm going to be using the old wiring, so I'm just going to snip this basically in a way that I can still get to the wires and resolder the new lamps on afterwards. Now what I've got to do is go behind this wall and unscrew this lamp, because this is just plasterboard, this is not an outer wall. So let's go inside there and see if I can do it. This is going to be awkward on my own, but I'll give it a try. So here we are then on the other side of the wall, and sure enough, there's where it's bolted to the wall. You can see it's quite a big washer on there so that it's not putting too much pressure on the plaster. But okay, this is going to be fun. Let's try and get this undone. Getting off should be fairly easy. Putting it back, putting the new one back on will be an awful lot of fun, no doubt. There we go, there's the washer. Okay, let's go back into the room then, and hopefully now that will be free to pull off the wall. Okay, let's see how easy it is to pull this one off the wall then. Hopefully very. Yep, reasonably. Alright, let's grab the new light then and put that up in its place. Hopefully it will fit. They are quite a bit bigger obviously, but yeah, we'll see. I think we've just about got away with that. Or maybe not. Yeah, we might need another hole there. Slightly to the left, perhaps. Or maybe a touch lower. Okay, I'll get onto that. I'll be right back. I reckon there. There we go. Just grab the vacuum and clean that up, and I'll be right back in a sec. Right, let's try again. Shove this in. And now I've got to hope that stays there while I go round the back and screw it in. Yep, definitely going to be fun that. Let's try it though. Okay, those are all done then. I'm sorry for not bringing you through every step of that, but it was just a lot of soldering and you know, a lot of me just putting heat shrink tubing onto wires and things, so it wouldn't have been too interesting, and obviously it's a long job, so I just wanted to get on with it. But those are done, all 4. I've just put it in the corner of the screen here because I didn't really want to shove the camera right in front of it while I turn them on. But yeah, I've swapped the circuitry over to mains now, so the relays are still wired up in the same way, except rather than 12 volts going in, we've got 240, but obviously at much less current, so that solved all of those problems. Inadvertently, I didn't realise they were mains voltage, but it was just a little bit, you know, 10-15 minutes extra work, and now it's actually way better. So let's try this out, let's see if it's going to work. Hopefully everything will. Let's try it. Woomph. Yep. That's definitely working. Let's take a look at the layout. Oh, look at this. The colour temperature is just spot on now. Really happy with that. And this is without any softboxes or anything on. This is just the in-house lights. Oh, so happy with that. Right, let me show you the room overall then. Yes, it's kind of a strain on the eyes to be in here at the moment, but that's kind of exactly what I wanted. So, yeah, that is spot on. That's just amazing what £100 or so can do. So, I'll definitely be investing in more of those LED strips to replace some of the older ones. But, yeah, really happy with that. So, thanks for coming along. Hopefully, this will mean improvements overall for the channel and the videos that I put up. So, yeah, I'm really excited about that, to be honest. But for now, thank you for watching. I'll say goodbye. There we go. And I'll see you Wednesday. Cheers, everybody.